Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, the Young CEO, here with you today. Inflation has risen to 9.1% for the month of June, right? And this marks the 41-year high for inflation, right? The CPI data for the month of June has released on Thursday, July 13th, right? For those who don't know, the CPI means Consumer Price Index, as you can see on the screen. It has increased to 9.1%, but overall increased 1.3% in the month of June, right? For the month of May, it was 8.6% was the inflation rate, right? How does 8.6% plus 1.3% equal 9.1%? Doesn't, right? Why, like, that doesn't make any sense, right? There's a whole formula that they do. You guys could look into that a little bit more, on how they do the formula for inflation. So what I'm gonna be doing today, I'm gonna be breaking down this inflation rate, as well as how can we get prepared for what's coming, as in terms of certain markets such as Nasdaq, cryptocurrencies, and what does this mean for us? What does it mean for us investors and stuff like that? So that's what I'm gonna be doing. First, I'm gonna be breaking down the current CPI data that got released on last Thursday, which is right here. So as you guys can see, here's a chart, right? Here's a monthly chart of how much each month the percentage goes up by, right? So as you can see, the month of May it went up by 1%. The month of June it went up even more, 1.3%. So this shows that inflation, it just hasn't peaked yet, because we never have decreased yet. We never got a decrease in the percentage of inflation. So this shows that we're not at a peak for inflation, right? As you guys can see, or as you guys could observe, gas prices were still going up in June, right? They just started to come down, right? Food, certain things like that are still going up. So we're as we scroll down here, right? This is an important chart that I like to look at. This data right here shows us how much each category, such as food, energy, and other items, how much they have increased by in terms of percentage, and how it adds to the inflation, right? So I like to read it from the top to the bottom. So here's the month of May, and then here's the month of June, right? It shows that all items increased by 1.3%. Food has generally increased by 1%, right? This is not the percentage that it's at. This is how much it increased over this last month, right? So as you can see, right, in the month of May, it increased by 1.2%, and then in June again by another percent, another 1%, right? Energy and commodities increased by 7.5%, right? Gasoline, energy commodities 10%, gasoline, all types of gasoline 11%, and then the only thing that we did see come down was fuel, right? Fuel, which decreased by 1.2%, and then electricity went up, utility gas services went up by 8%, and so on and so forth, right? Used cars, they all, everything has increased over the course of the last month, right? Um, so the only thing that has decreased was fuel oil, right? And should I say, how are we gonna get these prices to stabilize, right? That's what everybody's asking. How are we gonna get inflation down? One thing that's the Feds have been doing, they have been actually raising the interest rates for things, which makes it more expensive to borrow money, which makes it harder for the consumers to actually borrow money and start buying stuff and start splurging their money. So what the Feds could do is they could either raise it again and go aggressive and raise the interest rates by another 0.75 basis points, or they could go a little bit more aggressive and raise it by a whole 100 basis points, right? So it I don't know what the Feds are gonna do. I don't see them raising it by a full one, but they can possibly. I can see them going for another 0.75%, right? Big question is, what is this going to do to our investments? What is this going to do to the market, right? That's why this news, and that's why the CPI data for this month was so important, is because we seen inflation still rise, right? We seen things start still getting expensive, right? So that's how you read the CPI data, and this releases every month. So next month is going to be for the month of July, and that will be released in August. So that's how you read this chart. If we're looking at the NAS 100, right? After that CPI data has been released, the market for this week from July 13th, from July 13th, the market has been on a little recovery, right? I'm pretty sure that we can probably see that this is when the news this is the day that the news of the CPI data has gotten released, right? July 13th, and then we seen a rally and give us a little recovery in the market, right? So what I'm seeing is the big news is that we see that the inflation rate has been going up, but we also should pay attention to when the Feds are going to decide whether or not they want to combat this inflation rate aggressively or not aggressively, right? Because them raising interest rates will expect, or we should expect, the markets to drop even more, right? Especially we have that coming up. We have a couple of things coming up. That's why we should, as investors, we have to make sure that we're prepared for things that are coming up. We have the GDP coming up, as well as we have certain stock earnings, such as pretty sure Tesla's stock earnings are coming up, and as well as a few other companies are actually coming out with their earnings, right? And as you guys could tell, people and consumers don't have the money, don't want to put the money up front to actually buy certain things, because interest rates are rising, right? People aren't trying to spend more money. People first have to worry about surviving instead of going out and spending their money on certain goods and services, right? A lot of people don't have the money to actually buy their wants, right? Like, say for example, if you had to decide between you living, providing food for yourself, water, house, rent, right, or a Tesla with a 8% APR, right? Because interest rates has gotten so high, as well as as well as the food that you're buying and everything else has went up as well, and your income has just been stable, right? What are you gonna you're not gonna have enough money to buy that good or service, right, that you want. So that's why, especially this year, the stock earnings aren't gonna I don't personally think stock earnings are gonna be as good as previous years. So that's a negative way that could also affect the market, is the stock earnings. The GDP hasn't been good either. So those are some things to actually look out for. But as you guys can see, we did get that market recovery. May see it come up to this area level, in this area right here. We may see it come up to this area right here, right? Recover all the way up to this level. I can see that that is a strong level for it to come back down and take out these relative lows, as we could see the NASDAQ trade even lower than it is right now. So that's where I'm looking at. That's exactly what I believe, and that's exactly where I think that we're going to be going in terms of these next upcoming weeks and months. So definitely look out for that as more news is getting released in terms of what am I doing to be prepared for what's happening, right? So I'm going to be either reducing my position size on my investments, and as well, because we just got a recovery, right? If you did enter, for example, when the interest rates of last month, they got released, right? I bought Ethereum around the 900 areas, and now it's sitting at 1.3, right? Now when that interest rate, now when the Fed news comes out, right, we could potentially see markets drop with how aggressively they're possibly could be going with raising these interest rates, right? So what I'm probably gonna do is I am planning on actually reducing my. It's right. Actually, it's a really good time right now to actually reduce your position size on certain assets that you have going. So because we could possibly see another drop for Ethereum to shoot. I don't know where to, but these are gaps in the market that we still have to. These are areas in the market that the market still wants to come to, right? Especially because we spent a lot of time in this area. The more the market spends time in that area, the weaker it gets. Right? And what I'm gonna just reduce your position size and just wait on the sidelines until the market gives you a area to enter, right? Like I said, you don't want to catch a falling knife, but you don't want to be caught off guard with the news that's coming out. From Ethereum, I entered at like 920 areas, and then now it's trading at 1.3. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reduce my position size. So I'll take a couple ETH, transform them or exchange them for USDC, and then once that, I'm gonna wait on the sidelines, and then obviously when the news comes out and things start to balance out and the market starts to just trade regularly, then I will come back into the market. But right now I'm staying on the sidelines until I see what I see is gonna happen, right? Because I still see these areas for Ethereum at below 800 and between 700 for these areas for Ethereum, as well as you have that news coming out, right? For Tesla, I mean, the earnings for Tesla does come out soon, so this could possibly, possibly take out these areas and trade into this area right here, 500 to 540 areas, right? Potentially, right? That's what I'm looking at for Tesla. The Nasdaq says it all, right? If you look on the monthly, the Nasdaq says it all. We have a gap in the market in these areas, right? And as the news comes out, we could see the market trade into those areas and give us what we want. And then you start taking your positions. You start dollar cost averaging, putting in a couple $100 every single week. All right, so that's exactly what I'm doing to prepare in the market. As the news starts to roll out, I'm going to be cautious of the market and paying attention. So that's just be careful, guys. Like, that's basically all it is. Just be aware and just stay updated. I'll keep you guys updated with all the news that's coming out and certain aspects of the market that we could see happen. So without further ado, make sure you guys go like, comment, subscribe, and hit that post notification for certain updates. I'll see you guys. We out.